live, my typical 1 a.m. live stream. This will be a shorter stream because I do need to get some more sleep because I have a busy streaming weekend coming up starting on Friday, and I want to start getting my rest in now. Friday, September, I guess it'd be 19th, so 1 day away. It will be a stream going from basically 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., give or take. I'm going to be attending Medium Day 2025. And as part of that, streaming the content from that day, learning about and discussing ways in which we as Freemasons can better and more effectively communicate online through, for example, through the written format in particular. So that could include social media posts that are written, but primarily long form writing on platforms such as Medium. But for now, we're just going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who joins. These 1 a.m. streams are always just me hanging out and waiting to see who wants to chat about Freemasonry. I'm going to see who wants to join us. I had a great stream this afternoon. I enjoyed that as well. And now let's wait and see who wants to say hello. And if you have any thoughts or questions on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, as always, I'd love to hear them. Welcome. Jump in the chat, say hello. We're here to talk about Freemasonry. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, I'd love to hear them. This is just me hanging out. This is one of those streams where there's nothing in particular. Just waiting to see who wants to join. Hello, Dylan. Good morning to you as well. How is your morning going so far? I suppose I can actually ask this question. I'm going to put in a poll question. But how is your morning treating you? I hope it's going well. As always, I hope you'll hit that like and well, for you, I think you've already hit the like button. Don't forget, we've got our 24-hour live stream coming up on September 21st, going through to September 22nd, and we've got before that on Friday, the 19th, about a 12-hour live stream. I'll be taking part in Medium Day 2025 and live streaming my experiences. You just open your eyes and I'm the first face you see. That is not good. This face is too ugly to be the first face anybody sees. I hope that you see something much prettier very shortly. But nonetheless, thank you for joining me after you just woke up. I'm sure you're getting ready for what's going to be an excellent Thursday. On my stream, by the way, on the 21st or the 22nd, outside of giving away or gifting Patreon memberships, which I'm looking forward to doing every couple hours in honor of my birthday, I will be talking about Masonic history. I'm not quite sure even how I'm going to be talking about it. We're going to start with Masonic as in it's like stonemasonry as well as Freemason, as well as speculative masonry. Or if I'm going to be talking about it starting with the Regius manuscript. I'm still trying to decide. Mira Sanvi says hi. Hello, Mira or Myra. I hope you're doing well. I hope you'll hit the like button. I hope you'll hit the subscribe button if you're new. And let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. answer the poll question, all that good jazz. So it is 1 o'clock in the morning, 1 a.m. So what about you? And by the way, if you're not subscribed, I hope you'll hit the subscribe button. Wow, so you are other side of the world than me, because that's about 12 hours different. We got one vote, one no. New Zealand. I would love to visit New Zealand. There's a lot of really cool Freemasonry in New Zealand that I would love to get the chance to visit. I love attending Masonic lodges around the world. Never had a chance to visit a Masonic lodge in New Zealand or even Australia, which I know is close by, so I would love to. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I hope you're doing well. Please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe button when you get the chance. And let me know if there's anything when it comes to Freemasonry that you want to talk about, any thoughts you have, positive, negative, or neutral. I'd love to hear them. Interesting. One yes and one no in terms of U.S. Federal Reserve cutting. Freemasons need to care about our communities. Freemasons need to care about the economics in our communities. That stuff matters a lot. So please take a moment. In the meantime, hit the like button and the subscribe button. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for being here. Myra, I think somebody stepped on your, I think maybe have a cat went over your keyboard. Smokey is in the house. How's it going, Smokey? Roberto, I hope that's not the case. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that we can actually hope for better. I understand why you might think that. I feels like things are kind of scary right now, but I hope and pray that there will not be. And I think that to the extent that that can be stopped, it will be up to Freemasonry and other civic and civil organizations to make that not be the case, in my humble opinion. My name is this is Square and Compass Promotions. My name is Cameron Adamson, and I'm here to chat about Freemasonry. I've been a Freemason since 2007. It's my favorite thing to talk about. So yeah, that is basically it. Welcome back, Dream Seeker. Good to see you again. Well, I think that it is not exclusive to Freemasonry, but Freemasonry may be the best organization. But I think civic organizations in general can deter civil unrest by, amongst other things, demonstrating to our communities and the world at large that men and women, for that matter, but that men of different backgrounds, politics, faiths, religions, ethnicities can work together under democratic and kind of ordered, um, through democratic institutions as well as kind of ordered liberty, if you want to call it that, as well as improving the economic conditions in the communities around each other and providing charitable support to those who need it. Very often, in my opinion, what causes and what leads to civil unrest is when people feel as though they lack economic supports, they lack emotional supports. Um, Many times, I think crime is born from being lonely and nihilistic, and I think Freemasonry provides a sense of purpose, a sense of friendship, a sense of brotherhood, all of which can deter individual acts of violence, in my opinion, which can potentially deter civil unrest. There's all sorts of evidence, like Bowling Alone is a great example of this, which is the book by Robert Putnam, or the movie Join or Die, which is based on that book, all of which demonstrates connections and community and civic culture reduce the likelihood of violence and create for longer, happier, and healthier lives. Dream Seeker, thank you for being here. And Roberto, please hit the like button and please hit the subscribe button. I would truly appreciate it. I hope I answered your question, Roberto. Let me know if I did, or if what I said made a lot of sense. And if it didn't, I'll try to expand once again. Roberto, I think you're new to the stream, if I'm not mistaken. I feel like I remember your picture, if nothing else. If you are new, hit the like and subscribe button. If you're not new, welcome back. Don't forget, I have some major streams coming up on Friday. There's going to be a 12-hour stream starting 8 a.m. approximately, and I have a stream on Saturday on Instagram, and then Sunday a 24-hour live stream. So I'm looking forward to all of those. And that is on my birthday. But in the meantime, Roberto, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and I truly appreciate you being here. But you are welcome. Yeah, I do these streams 1 p.m., 1 a.m. very often, and we talk about Freemasonry. Sometimes I have specific topics, sometimes it's more general. These 1 a.m. streams tend to be just general discussion as opposed to specific topics. But I do understand your concern about civil war. I'm kind of scared too. But even though I'm Canadian, I love the States. It's one of my favorite places in the world. I have always said Canada is the greatest country in the world because we have the greatest neighbors in the world. I still believe that to be the case. And I'm hoping and praying that or my thoughts, my wishes, call it what you will, that America finds its way out of this. Poison Ivy. I like the name. When you say corrupt mental institutions and absolutely demonic, do you mean Freemasonry, the United States, the Federal Reserve? I assume you mean Freemasonry, but let me know if I'm getting that incorrect. You are welcome. No, I love the name. I mean, because Poison Ivy from Batman. Batman, I'm not a big comic book fan as a rule, but I do like Batman, and that includes the villains. Well, I don't know. That seems kind of unkind. I would not say that's the case. I've been a Freemason since 2007. I can tell you, within my experiences, Freemasonry is certainly not demonic. Um, as for the rest, I think it's needlessly cynical to kind of view them as corrupt. I think they're just organizations that we have individuals trying their best. So is that where poison ivy? So that makes sense. Even the ivy that can sting you, even the plants that can sting you. Very cool. I love plants too. I mean, as a general rule, I love both flora and fauna more than people sometimes. I tend to be someone who loves being in nature more than I love being around people in some cases, but I think you want to believe, even when you struggle, that in some way, shape, or form, people are basically good. I like to think that is the case, even when sometimes it can feel like it's not, and that includes the institutions to which people belong. And I hope you'll hit the like button and the subscribe button as well. Well, that's a somewhat positive view that people are trying to be better. And I do think people are trying to be better. I don't know though if they've been taking advantage of institutions, right, or taking advantage of society. I think it's a little more complicated than that. I think even the institutions are full of people trying their best. As someone who worked for many years in different institutions, um, I was a probation officer. I worked in a jail. I can tell you it's incredibly challenging work. However, there can be a lot of rewards and efforts. As with everything, that's not to say there aren't people in every institution, some of whom are bad apples, if you will. But I believe you have to, at some level, have a level of, at some base, what's the word I'm trying to say here? There has to be some base understanding that, generally speaking, individuals, whether they work within institutions or without, are, if not good, deserving of a better world and deserving of the benefit of the doubt, deserving of, if you will, charity. And when I say charity, I don't just mean charity in terms of money, but I mean charity in terms of being charitable when they mess up, being charitable in your interpretation of their actions, being charitable with forgiveness and understanding, which is, by the way, a Masonic idea. We talk a lot in Freemasonry about charity. Sometimes we're talking specifically about monetary donations or donating goods or services, but sometimes we just mean charity in terms of being charitable with our time, being charitable with our understanding, being charitable with our kindness, um, being charitable with our money. All of that's with our forgiveness, I should say, being charitable with optimism and being parsimonious with pessimism. Um, Means is relevant as well. And believe me, I know it can be hard. I tend to run a bit more pessimistic myself, but I'm trying to work on that. So, in what ways, poison ivy, have they sowed division? Because, in my understanding, based on my understanding of the history of Freemasonry, I'm not an expert on it. I don't pretend to be, but I am conversant in the history of Freemasonry, and I do, based on my research, believe I can have some fairly good discussions and conversations about it. I've not seen any evidence that Freemasonry has sowed division or um, have sowed division, nor any evidence of dark craft. When you say dark craft, I assume you mean some type of witchcraft or like Wiccan witchcraft, I think is what you mean by dark craft. None of which I've seen. Being a Mason since 2007, I've attended over 1,000 Masonic events in 5 countries. Six countries: America, Canada, Mexico, um, Um, I can't think. Manila, the Philippines, Brazil, and England. So, and in all that time, I've never seen what I would describe as dark craft. If by dark craft you mean witchcraft, I could be mistaken though. I've never heard that term, dark craft, before, nor have I ever seen any examples of the Masonic division. In my experience, it's the opposite. They sow unity by welcoming men of different faiths and backgrounds and beliefs. So, Poison Ivy, I always like to add a caveat as to the question as to why I joined, or not a caveat, but maybe an addendum. So the reason I joined is because my father was a Freemason or is a Freemason, and my grandfathers on both my mom's and my dad's sides were Freemasons. The addendums I like to add to that is two things. First, you don't need to have a family connection to be a Freemason. I know many brothers, many Freemasons who had no family connections and joined. But the other more important addendum is there's a dip there. It's important to understand that the reason Masons join is oftentimes very different from the reason a Mason may be active. I know many Masons who have family connections within Freemasonry and who did not stick around in the sense that they joined, but they did not remain active. In some cases, they keep paying their dues but never show up to meetings. In other cases, they just stop paying the dues and stop showing up after a few months, or a few years, or whatever it is, right? The reason I stayed active is not because my dad was a Mason. Honestly, that got me to join, but it's not what kept me active in it. The reason that I stayed active in Freemasonry, Poison Ivy, and the metaphor I use is I like the sound of it. And what I mean by that, I don't know what your favorite song is. For me, my favorite song is Simple Man by Leonard Skinner. My second favorite song actually is Prodigal by Blacktop Mojo. You and I could hear the same song, uh, Simple Man. We're hearing the exact same words, we're hearing the exact same music, the same notes. For some reason, there's something about me. Maybe it's just something genetic to how I was born, the experiences I've had in life, what was happening in my life when I heard that song, that spoke to me in a way that made it my favorite song. It's not as though I was driving in the car one day and I said, the next song on the radio is going to be my favorite song, right? I just heard it and I loved it. Freemasonry is the same way. I didn't choose to fall in love with it. What you love chooses you. You don't choose it. For whatever reason, there's something about Freemasonry, there's something about a civic organization that spoke to me in a way that it doesn't speak to many other people, including many other Masons who aren't as active as me. There are some who love Freemasonry as much as I do, but at the core, the reason I joined is for the family connection. The reason I remained active is because I love it. And yeah, I guess that's the addendum I like to add to that. I hope that made sense, Poison Ivy. Let me know if it did. Dust in the Wind is a great song. Unfortunately, though, I can't listen to that song anymore without laughing because whenever I hear it, all I think about is Old School and You're My Boy Blue. So, in some ways, maybe Will Ferrell kind of ruined that song for me a little bit, even though it's a great song. But yeah, I gave you a very long answer. My simple answer, I joined because of the family connection. I was never forced to join. My dad never really encouraged me to join. I just always assumed that I would. And I do think the other reason I stayed active is because it allows me to fight to build a better world. Well, it wasn't a longing for family connections exactly. Um, like I wouldn't say longing. I feel like I had family connections and they were always very strong. Although I will say my grandfather on my dad's side passed away before I was born, so I never got to meet him. But Freemasonry allows me to feel connected to him in a way because we're going through him and I. It's the same ritual. We're part of the same group. We're part of the same club. We're part of the same organization. And what he was a part of, I am a part of. So in that sense, um, I guess there was a longing, although it's not really something I thought of when I joined. It's more just, I grew up seeing Christmas parties and going to lodge events and enjoying it as a kid, and I always figured one day I would just join. Welcome back, Mira. Sorry, Poison Ivy. I'm not sure I understand what you mean by what is the base of Freemasonry in 2025. Do you mean the base number of people, like worldwide? Because I have no idea. Assalamu alaikum, Firaj. I can answer the other question a little bit better. How has it helped people? That is, so there's three ways Freemasonry has helped people. The first is through just general charitable efforts. Um, those include, so if you want to learn more about that, you can look at the Masonic Charitable Foundation out of England, the Texas Masonic Retirement Community. Um, well, so Freemasonry is not like do you mean like holy book? Like I'm not sure what you mean by base of morality because like Freemasonry, it's not a religion. The extent to which it imparts moral lessons is the same way, for example, any other club imparts moral lessons. So, for example, if you're a football player, you learn moral lessons around things like teamwork, health, dedication, exercise, working hard, determination. Um, those are moral lessons you learn by being a football player. In Freemasonry, you learn moral lessons through things like working within a group of men of differing beliefs and opinions and faiths. Um, you learn maybe some philosophical ideals. You learn that there is an ordered universe and there's some moral lessons therein. Charity, brotherly love, relief. But those are all things you learn through the practice of Freemasonry, right? It's not like Freemasonry is teaching morality in the way a religion would. Freemasonry is not a religion. Um, so again, going back to, I mean, if to give a simple answer, the base of morality, I would say is brotherly love, relief, and truth. I think is the simplest answer. What do I know about? Going back to how it has helped people, though. So there's the organized charitable efforts that would include, for example, in Texas, the Texas Masonic Retirement Community, which, amongst other things, provides shelter, like good shelter, safe, clean, healthy, with medical care. Provides shelter for Masons and Masonic widows who are older. In many cases, I've heard of cases of older Masons living out of their car who find housing through the retirement community, and widows who had nowhere to go. Um, Money for cancer research, money and learning for so money and resources for learning centers to help children learn how to read who have dyslexia. There's 9 in Canada, if I recall correctly. My gosh, prostate cancer. Collections for um, what's it? I can't think of what it's called now. Collecting canned goods for soup kitchens, for food, for soup kitchens, for local homeless shelters. Um, Welcome to Brotherhood. Thank you for being here. So it's always been charitable. I mean, the nature of the charity was less organized before World War One, because before World War One there was not so much Masonic charitable organizations. In that case, I do see myself as, I mean, until I die, forever is a long time. I don't plan to leave Freemasonry anytime soon. So I'm 40 years old now. Maybe I'll live to 80 years old. I'll live longer as a Freemason. Freemasonry increases life expectancy. I'll talk about why that is in a second. Before World War One, the charity was more, and we still have this, but it was more individual. It was Masonic lodges giving money to a brother who may be ill, who lost work, who needed to support his family. It was what we call benevolence, which we still have. And I know Masons who, um, and not only do I know Masons, but I know Masonic families. I know wives and kids who would be on the street, who would not have a place to live, were it not for Masonic lodges stepping in and providing benevolence and providing money to them to pay their rent, to pay for groceries, to support medical bills, whatever it might be. And not only does that help the Mason, not only does that help the Masonic family, but Poison Ivy, that also helps you and everybody in the chat who's not a Freemason. Because if, let's imagine John Smith loses his job, does not have anywhere to turn for benevolence, for support, and ends up losing his house. And now he and his family are on the streets. Now, who needs to help them and support them? Well, it's going to be the community. Now, the community needs to step in and provide them with social assistance. Shelter space gets used up. If the shelter is full, they're sleeping on the streets. That affects people, walking to work, whatever it is. Now they're less healthy. Now they're more reliant on the healthcare system. They're in emergency rooms, right? It's stopping people from a more greater and greater downward slide. It's not just helping the individual, it's helping the community by helping and ensuring one more individual and one more individual family does not require community services. Poison Ivy, I've never been married. I have a cat, if that helps. Uh, I have Bandit. But there's one other way that Freemasonry helps. Or Freemasonry also, by the way, helps the community at large by providing economic support. So, for example, in my lodge, we've done ice cream tastings where we've purchased ice cream from a local, like a brand new shop. In order to, like an ice cream shop just opens up. We purchase ice cream from them. We do an ice cream tasting that helps the shop, get some free publicity as well as some money. We've done coffee tasting with the same thing. We've even during COVID, we did a virtual beer and cheese tasting where we had a brewery that was shut down for COVID. And when I say shut down, it could serve takeout, but not have people in its restaurant. We actually had them create to-go packages containing different types of beer with cheeses and meats. The packages cost, I think it was $25. Masons could pick them up or they were delivered. And then we had a virtual meeting. We couldn't meet in person due to COVID. We had a virtual meeting where we had a tasting of the different types of beer with the types of cheese and meat. And the brewer talked to us about how the beers were brewed, how they tasted, and why he chose each meat and cheese. And that was a big financial boon to that restaurant at a time when it was really struggling financially due to COVID shutdowns. I don't believe that, Poison Ivy. I don't think community has been targeted by dark forces at all. I think community is what makes this great. I've always believed people are greater in community than as individuals. The last way it helps people, and this is one of those things that's kind of hard to understand, but I think it's really important. I'm going to try to explain it. So I was a probation officer for many years, and one of the things we had to do when people came in to see us, why didn't I get married? I don't know. I just guess I never found the right person. I'm still working on it. Maybe I'll meet the right person down the line. Who knows? Or maybe I'm meant to be single. I don't know. Just never happened for me. Um, um, So I was a probation officer for about 5 years, and whenever we had a new person come in to, um, whenever we had a new person come onto probation, we had to do what was called an LSI. I just got to move this cord, and my cat is playing with it. LSI stood for Level of Service Inventory. Basically, we had to figure out their risk to reoffend, their risk for recidivism. And the higher the risk, the more we had to see them. And one of the questions we asked them is about their associates and their friends. And if they were, let's say, had a lot of friends, but they were all in a gang or they were all involved in criminal activities, with them, they were considered at higher risk to reoffend. However, if they told me they had no friends or no companions, they were also placed at an equally high risk to reoffend. Having no friends or no associates was equally as dangerous as having negative friends. All the evidence I've seen shows that having positive friendships, having supports, having people that care about you, that you know care about you, help you lead not only a healthier life, help you live a longer life, but help you lead a more pro-social life. There's a study show that if you have a heart attack or a stroke and you end up in the hospital, those who had no visitors were 2.5 times more likely to have a secondary health event or die in the hospital than those who have friends. And I can tell you, as somebody who has visited countless Masons in the hospital, um, I know what it means to them to have a visitor, to have a brother care about them. Um, and again, that doesn't just help them, that helps the whole community. When you think about it, um, uh, you know, the longer someone has to spend in a hospital, the greater amount of time someone, needs resources, has secondary impacts. That's a strain on the entire community because all the medical resources are going to that individual. When he has friends, family, people to check on him, you know that the hospital may be able to discharge him sooner and safer. Even like, so my dad, for example, is getting older. He's getting concerned about dementia. I don't think he has it, to be honest, but he's getting concerned because he's getting older. He's seen people have it. Um, one thing the doctor said is keep on going to Freemasonry, keep up with your Masonic ritual, keep practicing your work. That stuff is a protective factor against dementia. And also, you have friends around you. If they start to see you struggling or falling down, they will help you get back up. Um, and they will help you, they will recognize when you're struggling. If you do have dementia and they start to see problems and issues with you, they'll let you know. I would love to meet your friends at Brotherhood. So my mom was not a Mason. When I speak of Masonry, Poison Ivy, I tend to speak of it in the fraternal sense, the fraternity of Freemasonry. However, there is a bit of a misconception out there. There is actually women Freemasons. The Order of Women Freemasons, for example, but my mom was not one. And I am an only child, single child. If you ask my mom, it's because I was so perfect. I was so perfect, she couldn't do better, and so why try? If you ask my dad, it's because I was so annoying and wouldn't stop talking that they didn't want to risk a second child that would talk even more and be even more annoying. So it depends who you ask. But my mom was very active in Freemasonry. She went to ladies' nights. She went to dances. Apparently at one Masonic ladies' night, she danced on a table. They both had a little bit too much to imbibe that night, I think. And, forgot that they were in their 40s and had to be responsible and decided to be teenagers again. So there you go. You asked above about the connection between Freemasonry and Islam. There is connections between Freemasonry and Islam. There's actually a book called Crescent and Compasses, I think it's called, which is about those connections. The most obvious connections is the fez. which is the shrine, right? The fact that the fez is red, it's kind of Morocco, which is Islamic country, right? Moroccan. Um, there are plenty of lodges in the Ottoman Empire. It's interesting, Poison Ivy, that you went to the Islamic influence. I've found most people who don't like Freemasonry. I'm not saying you don't like Freemasonry. I don't know what your views on it are. It seems like you're, if nothing else, suspicious of it. Or even just in general, a lot of people who don't know much about it tend to connect Freemasonry with Judaism. There are some connection between Freemasonry and Judaism, but there's also connections between Freemasonry and Christianity. There's also connection between Freemasonry and Islam. There's also connections between Freemasonry and Stoic philosophy, and philosophy in general, as well as Egyptian mysticism. Freemasonry kind of borrowed from a lot of different philosophies and ideas when creating what we would call Masonic rituals. But there's a lot of the if you ever looked up, just if you type into Google Shriner's Fez, you'll see this red fez with a shrine on, with a little hat on it. That's an Islamic kind of idea. The hat is very prominent in Morocco, as is the color red, which is meant to represent a berry that grows in Morocco. Morocco is obviously a Muslim majority country. Freemasonry is very popular amongst many Muslim brothers. In Dearborn, Michigan, where I've visited many times, Freemasonry is very popular. I know many Muslim brothers, and they all love Freemasonry very much. Poison Ivy, I hope you've enjoyed what I'm saying. I hope it makes sense. I hope you hit the like and subscribe button. What do you mean by what do I think it's great. I'm not sure what you mean by what do I think about that connection. I think that one of the Freemasonry's greatest strengths is that it connects to so many different and important philosophical, religious, historical, even in some ways political traditions without being a philosophy, a religion, or a political organization. So I think the connections we have with Islam is a strength within Freemasonry, as are the connections we have with Judaism, as are the connections we have with Christianity, as are the connections we have with Egyptian mysticism. None of which is, I don't believe in spirituality in Freemasonry. Others do. I don't. I believe that they're metaphors that impart valuable kind of ideas. But more than that, I think ritual at its core is a way to bond brothers through shared experiences. I went through the same initiation as all my brothers, and that bonds us, and that bonds me with brothers all around the world. Well, so Freemasonry, was you can pick your date for simple terms. Here, I'm going to say Freemasonry was founded on June 24th of 1717. That's when the Premier Grand Lodge of England formed. It was 1717. Smoky's right. That was a time for better or worse. I would say for worse. Right. The things that were available to women just weren't available to men. Right. Certainly engagement within the trades like stonemasonry, which is where Freemasonry evolved from. I'm sure there were women stonemasons, but you don't hear about them, and they would have been an incredibly small minority. And belonging to social clubs, belonging to social groups. That was just understood to be something that was exclusive for men, and that was not unique to Freemasonry by any means. The Order of Women Freemasons was formed, I forget the year, 18 something or other, and they have been around ever since. And Eastern Star is for men and women. And if I recall correctly, Eastern Star was actually started in Michigan, in the States, right across the river from me. But I could be wrong about that. But it was really just that it was the nature of the times, the nature of the world in which Freemasonry existed. And yeah, it was the Goose and Gridiron on June 24th, 1717. You have been doing the research, and good for you. I appreciate that very much. By the way, Poison Ivy, I'm just going to let you know I have some exciting streams coming up on Friday. I'm going to be streaming starting at 8 a.m., going to 8 p.m. on, so that's Friday, and I'm going to be attending Medium Day 2025, which is going to be a blast. Um, on Saturday, I'm going to be streaming on Instagram live. On Sunday, I'm going to start at 2 p.m. I'm going to do a 24-hour live stream. So that's going to be a blast. It's going to be tiring, but it's going to be fun. I do those every month. We're talking about Masonic history. Thank you. I appreciate that. And as always, hit that like and subscribe button. I mean, as a general rule, or I guess as a rule, I'm opposed to any slave trade for anyone. I don't think people should be enslaved. I understand historically there have been different types of slavery and slaves have been treated in different ways, but I mean, I guess I'm morally opposed to slavery. So I'd rather there not be a slave trade of any sort, but I don't know much about it from like a historical or logistical perspective. Um, like the history of it, I don't know. I know very little about. Um, I mean, so Great Britain abolished slavery on 1834. So Freemasonry did exist at a time when slavery was also existence within um, the British Empire. Yes, I can't wait for that either, Smokey. The 29th. It's going to be an absolute blast. Let's give it a bit more time. Let's see how it goes. Okay, I hope you're enjoying them. So, have you ever like commented on anything? Because I don't remember. I think actually, now that you say that, I think maybe I do recognize that name. I don't know if you commented before. Maybe I'm just imagining that I recognize you before. But I'm glad you stuck around. I really hope I answered your questions. I hope it made sense. Fair enough. I'm getting better at communicating, but I'm still not great at it. So I understand that. Um, Thank you, and I appreciate you being here. And like I said, please hit that like and subscribe. And so, Smokey, are we still good for the 29th, or might there be other times that work better? I try my best. I don't know if I always succeed or not, but I do try my best. Um, right? I think it's not that I'm a good person necessarily, rather, I try to be a good person. There's this phrase or this expression I really like. It goes, God, I do not always know the right thing to do, but the fact that I'm always trying to do the right thing, I hope makes you happy. And that's kind of how I feel. I don't always know the right thing to do, but the fact that I try to do the right thing always, I hope, makes God happy. Makes the Supreme Being happy. Well, I use the term Supreme Being, which is an Enlightenment era term. It's what Masons will often say. Sometimes we refer to Great Architect of the Universe. I mean, I don't know about God, right? I don't, my view, I've always said, my belief in a Supreme Being, to be a Mason, you must. My view of the Supreme Being is I tend to view a Supreme Being as being equivalent to the laws that govern the universe. the laws that create an ordered universe, kind of almost the way Einstein viewed God as being the equation which would govern the universe. So I believe that that is kind of how I describe the supreme being. I believe that the supreme being does reward virtue by creating an ordered universe. It allows us to understand our actions and the consequences those actions will have. And I believe it's possible for us to understand the universe. His will is made known to us, again, through mathematics and science and logic in an ordered universe. So I would always use the term supreme being. I don't necessarily believe in the Christian, or the, I don't believe in any particular faith per se. I guess I kind of, if you want to call it spiritual, you can call it that. Well, so to be a Freemason, you have to believe in a supreme being. If you are strictly atheist, to the extent that you refuse to believe in any type of supreme being or higher power, you can't join. But generally speaking, higher power tends to be very broadly defined, which I think is a good thing. I genuinely believe that one of Freemasonry's greatest strengths is the fact that it's welcoming of men and women, but men of all different faiths and beliefs. I love that. I wish we saw that in more groups and organizations in society, civic, civil, etc. I'm going to give this another, let's say, and by the way, Poison Ivy, you can also join our Patreon, patreon.com/squareandcompass. But yeah, we'll be back on tomorrow, 1 p.m., and then Friday starting 8 a.m. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to attending Medium Day 2025. I'll be live streaming. I'll be basically here for a very, very long day, but it's going to be a blast. So please join me for as much of it as you can. I'd really love to see you guys join. Well, the co-founders is tough. I mean, Anthony Sayer might be a good name. He was the first Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of England. There are no real leaders of Freemasonry, Poison Ivy, at least in the sense that I think you mean. Freemasonry is jurisdictional. So I'm from Ontario. I'm a Freemason in Ontario. The leadership in Ontario is the Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of Ontario in the province of Canada. So the Grand Master. But he is a leader that is exclusive to Ontario. Once you go to Manitoba, it's a different leader, right? There is no global leadership within Freemasonry. Freemasonry is jurisdictional. So it's Grand Masters around the world. Like I said, in the States, there's, I guess, 100 Grand Masters, 102, I think, 51 Grand Masters of AF and AM, Masonic jurisdictions, each state, and then 51 Prince Hall jurisdictions, 50 states plus Washington, D.C. I guess Puerto Rico maybe as well should count. And one of the rules is, right, the rules that govern me in Freemasonry, Ontario, you can't apply those rules to Texas. They get to make up their own rules. What allows all of us to meet with each other and communicate with each other is I can't think of the word now. What's called recognition, right? So, which is, I recognize that Texas, though it has a different Grand Master and a different leadership, they practice Freemasonry with regard to certain landmarks that are the same as mine. And there's enough commonality there. And therefore, I can visit them. You may have. I love Prince Hall. Prince Hall Masons are awesome. Yes, get yourself some sleep, Smokey. Thank you for being here. MBIC is back. Welcome, MBIC. Well, there is no mission of Freemasonry. To me, that's a very personal kind of question. I mean, a lot of people use this phrase to make good men better, but I'm not a huge fan of that slogan myself. I would say, for me personally, the mission is to fight to build a better world through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. At least that's what I hope to do. I don't want Freemasonry to be the type of thing that is kind of exclusively interested in self-improvement. I want it to be something that improves the communities through the ways I talked about before. I want it to be outward looking, not inward looking. But MBIC, it is good to see you. I hope that you are, as always, doing well. It's really wonderful to have you join. We never really talked about religion much in my family, but I think we're all pretty much Anglicans or Protestants. I mean, again, I'm not one for religion myself, so I never was really practicing. I know all I know is I'm Anglican, and when I was very young, I went to Anglican church, and every now and then I get an interest and I go back, but I never really stick. Doesn't mean anything against Anglican church, by the way. It's just not something I've ever stuck with, at least thus far. I concur, Dream Seeker. It's wonderful to have these questions being asked. And hopefully you'll be back on for everybody here, back on to keep me company in a few days on the 22nd for my 24-hour live stream. The number 33 is way over talked about. There's some different ones, but really, it's the 33rd degree in Freemasonry. It usually references the Scottish Rite. Honestly, it's like I said, it's very, very overdone. Right? Because a lot of people think, well, if you're 33rd degree Mason, you must be the most important Mason. That's not the case. The most important Mason is the Master Mason, which is 3rd degree. It's not like if I'm sitting as a Master Mason sitting next to a 33rd degree, they're 11 times more important than I am. Right? That is not the case, as much as people might like to think it is. Well, I'm not sure what you mean by that, Poison Ivy. I mean, um, they're different. They fulfill different kind of goals, right? It's kind of like saying you don't understand why some people attend cooking classes and work out in the gym, right? They're pursuing different aims and different goals. Freemasonry is not a religion. It has no it has no promise of salvation nor threat of damnation. It has nothing to say about like the spiritual way one approaches the afterlife. Um, so they're very different things, right? Freemasonry is a civic club or a civic organization or a social club. At its core, no different than a boys' night out, though more ancient and has more history behind it, right? It's at its core that. It's something I love. In the same way, though, like a football player may love football, and it may be his favorite thing in the world to do is to play football. That doesn't mean he won't also go to church, because football is about the social aspect of it and whatever he loves about it, and church is his religion. Um, so it's pursuing different aims, right? And that's true for whether it's Freemasonry in church, Freemasonry in a mosque, Freemasonry in a temple. Like, yeah, it's different things. It's different interests. No worries, Poison Ivy, and I appreciate you being here. It's been a blast. Thank you so much. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you on some of my other streams. I'll be ending this stream soon, but thank you, Poison. I really do appreciate all the questions. They were great and made this trip go very, very quick. So, or made this stream go very, very quick. So I truly appreciate it. Thank you. You as well. Let's give it a couple more minutes and then we'll end the stream. I will for sure. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I'll be back 1 p.m. And everybody has a great day. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. All right. Bye.